My name is Sophia Notto. I grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I am a textiles, merchandising, and fashion design major with a concentration in apparel and textile design. My passion for fashion started around the time that I got into costuming and cosplay. A friend of mine, when I worked at Joann's, needed help at a comic convention selling like these little wristlets, and I did that, and it was a totally life-changing experience. It was really cool to see somebody that I knew and looked up to making her own money doing something she loved, and after that I knew that I needed to find a way to get into the industry. North Carolina has a lot of textile and design programs, but I found that a lot of them were really based more so in like textile science and like merchandising and like the business side of things, and I really wanted to explore, my artistic side because I am, foundationally a creative person. My mom is from Omaha, and I knew that Omaha Fashion Week was a pretty big thing, and I just wasn't really happy with kind of where I was in my life at that point, and so I decided that moving to Nebraska would be a good option for me. Absolutely. I think I don't know if a lot of other people have heard this, but something that was kind of drilled into me during my time here at the program is that TMFD really has every facet of the industry. It's got the textile science, the merchandising, the design, kind of the visual merchandising, everything that goes into producing apparel on a mass scale. And even at a smaller scale, there's also the Professional Advisory Council that we can go to and like get insight from like local people in the area, and I think that that's something that I haven't seen around other even more prestigious programs. They tend to be very cutthroat, very competitive, but it's very clear that there's like a community here, and I think that's super important. My most impactful course was definitely experimental design. I think that I really found my voice there. I was able to kind of just play and figure out what I liked and what I didn't like about fabrics, about silhouette, and really try things that I wasn't able to try on my own or even in other classes. And I ended up winning a couple of awards and got into an art show here at the Robert Hillstead Textiles Gallery. And I'm really proud of that, and definitely helped validate my own voice as an artist. I accepted a 2D/3D technical design internship with Haynes in Winston-Salem. I have an interview with Omaha Fashion Week on Monday, so hopefully that goes well, and then I will be doing that at the end of August. At some point, I would love to have my own little shop, kind of just like when I first started doing the booth with my friend. Like, I would love to do that at some point. Whatever I'm going to do, I know that I'm going to continue to be creative. Hopefully, I can make more clothing, make more art, do some art shows, do more fashion shows, and just get more immersed in the community. It was about a year of tweaking my portfolio, tweaking my resume, looking at kind of just job descriptions and screenshotting them, figuring out what looks like a job that I might want to pursue. The very first kind of career thing that I did was through the National Retail Federation, or the NRF. They have a lot of opportunities like business talks. So the first one that I did was with Target, and they kind of talked about their internships, and there were opportunities to move up if you already work at a place like Target. They also had some virtual job fairs, so you could like submit your resume. I got a couple of interviews doing that. I interviewed with Belk through that process, and they actually ended up flying me out to Charlotte. I got to look and tour their kind of like their design hub, which was really cool. Didn't get that job, but it was a great experience, and I think that that's super important when you're looking for a job, is like just getting as many interviews in as possible, because the more that you do that, the more comfortable you'll be, the more confident you'll be in your skills, and the more that you can hone, you know, your resume and portfolio and what recruiters are looking for. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I was listening to a podcast on like the history of denim, and they were talking and interviewing a technical designer, and I had never heard of that job before. So I started looking into it, and it really sounded like something that I would be really good at. I think of myself as a strong communicator, and it's a job that does a lot of mediating between different departments. That's something that I'm super comfortable with, and I really like the idea and challenge of pattern making and talking to vendors, and I feel like technical design really brings all of the aspects from textile science to merchandising to design all into one job. Once I learned about 3D pattern making, I got really excited and started teaching myself that, and just that's kind of where it went from there. Don't be afraid to own your story. I think that I really found my voice when I started looking, not only my voice, but like my career path as well. When I started thinking about what was important to me and what my life experience had taught me about what I like and what I don't like. Don't be afraid to ask questions, especially in Dr. Yang's class. I feel like people don't ask enough questions in his classes. And the stuff that he's talking about is very real and very important. And you're not stupid for asking questions, because a lot of the other people in the room have the same question. They're just too afraid to ask. I don't know, I think that's it. Don't compromise on your dream. So this was a design that I did in draping. I had a pool floaty that had a hole in it, and the collector and artistic creative person inside of me, who can't bear to let anything go, was like, I could probably do something with that. And so I had this idea for a donut dress, didn't really know what it was going to look like, but once I got into draping, it was the perfect opportunity for me to kind of play around with how this fell. I also had this lime green kind of sports material, and it also lends itself pretty well to draping. I thought that the color contrast was really fun. So I just kind of started playing around with it, started kind of just flowing with how I thought it should look, and that's kind of what I did as far as the technical process. It was all done on draping. This pool floaty is lined with a calico cotton fabric here as well as there, and then it's got it's 2 pieces. So there's a top and then the skirt, so it can be a little bit more modular. This is my very first sewn project. Like I mentioned previously, part of the reason I got into sewing was costuming and cosplay. So this was a costume from a show called Black Butler. When I saw this outfit in the show, I thought, I have to make that. It's perfect, it's beautiful, I love it. But I didn't really know too much about how to read a pattern or how to really sew together a corset like this. So I just kind of was able to find a pattern that worked, and I hand pleated all of this lace. because I was too poor to afford actual pleated lace already, but that was a fun experience. Also kind of meditative. Made the bow here. It was a great learning experience. It was also the first time that I ever modeled my own work. I went to a comic convention and did like a cosplay walk, and that was really nerve-wracking, but I made a lot of friends along the way, and it's really cool to see kind of how far I've come. Yeah, so this one won Most Innovative at the 2022 Project Funway, and it's just fun. I feel like it really represents kind of my personality. While I was there at Project Funway, I heard somebody say that Katy Perry would totally wear this, and I was like, yeah, she probably would. I feel like it really captures the aesthetic that, you know, I go for. And then this one just has a special place in my heart, just being the first thing that I ever made, the first thing I ever modeled on my own, which if you're a designer, you know how nerve-wracking that can be. And it's where I learned how to make corsets. It's kind of where I learned a lot of my more advanced sewing skills. What I would tell my past self, I feel like when I first started out as a designer, I second-guessed myself a lot. I questioned whether or not what I was doing made any sense, or if people were going to care, or if I even liked my designs. I think that as designers, we could be extremely self-critical, but one of the things that has kind of always stuck with me has been every garment that you make, if you can put it on, it's a success. You know, it doesn't, your entire garments don't have to be completely perfect. They don't even have to turn out exactly the way you thought they would. If they are functional garments, you've learned something. And I think that that's super important, especially when you're in school, because I think a lot of people, especially designers, kind of have this very specific idea going in of like what they're going to end up building. I think for me, a lot of my inspirations were like Vivienne Westwood and like Ray Kawakubo, and I really thought that I was going to build something very extravagant in the same way that they kind of created their kind of empires or their garments. But what I found was that I am creating things that are big and loud, but they're uniquely me. And I think just following that voice and trusting the process is really important. And, you know, I think it's okay to second guess yourself, but don't second guess yourself to the point where you're kind of putting yourself into a mental stop or like a designer's block. Yeah, just trust the process and don't second guess what you're doing, because you're doing it for a reason. It's all gonna be worth it.